Officials from 24 African nations and U.S. climate envoy John Kerry are due to gather in Egypt for a conference to drum up funding for tackling climate change. The three-day forum comes days after African leaders lashed out at industrialized nations for failing to show up at the summit in the Dutch city of Rotterdam, dedicated to helping African nations adapt to climate impact.
So trying to solve that problem can go forever complaining about the fact that climate finance, like development finance, is insufficient, inefficient, and costly. Insufficient because of the gaps that you mentioned. Inefficient because for some funds, it takes them 3 to 4 years to release the money from the day they start shaking hands with ministers. And the fact that it's costly because in many cases, countries, developing economies are pushed to borrow at a very high cost in order to deal with the priorities for adaptation mitigation.
The forum will be held in Egypt's new administrative capital, 50 kilometers 30 miles east of Cairo. It seeks to leverage African leaders' voices to mobilize greater international support for a green and resilient recovery in Africa, according to the UN Economic Commission for Africa. Alongside Kerry, the regional meeting will also be attended by UN Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed, international organizations, NGOs, and private companies. Funding to help poorer countries curb their emissions and strengthen their resilience will be a key flashpoint at COP27, as a long-standing goal to spend $100 billion a year from 2020 on helping vulnerable nations adapt to climate change remains unmet. According to the African Development Bank, the continent will need as much as $1.6 trillion between 2020 and 2030 for its own efforts to limit climate change and to adapt to the adverse impacts that are already apparent. In late August, Group of 20 climate talks in Bali ended without a joint statement, despite host Indonesia warning the world's leading economies they must act together to combat a warming planet or risk plunging into uncharted territory.